Somewhere in the UK right now, thousands of 10 to 12-year-olds are standing in front of a phone camera, reading a poem out loud, hoping to become one of the most important characters in the entire Harry Potter saga. And here's the strange part. The actress who already had this role, who already filmed an entire season of television as this character, just walked away from it. Not because she was fired, not because of a scandal. According to her own family, it was unforeseen circumstances. That is a phrase vague enough to drive a Hogwarts Express through. And today we're going to unpack exactly what that means for the show, for the franchise, and for the kid who's about to inherit one of the most scrutinized roles in television history. Welcome back. If you're new here, this is where we take entertainment headlines and actually dig into the production reality behind them, instead of just repeating the press release. Let's get into IT.S. Oh, here's what happened. HBO's Harry Potter reboot has officially opened a casting call for a new Ginny Weasley. This isn't a rumor, it's a formal listing from casting director Lucy Bevan, the same casting office that found Dominic McLaughlin, Alastair Stout, and Arabella Stanton for Harry, Ron, and Hermione. The requirements are specific. The applicant has to be a child between 10 and 12 years old. They have to live in the United Kingdom, and because they're a minor, a parent or legal guardian has to submit the application on their behalf. This is a recast. The original Ginny, played by a young actress named Gracie Cochrane, already filmed Season 1. Back in May, her family announced she would not be returning, and HBO backed the decision, calling her Season 1 work something they were grateful for. Neither side gave a real reason, just unforeseen circumstances, and both parties moving on with what sounds like mutual respect. Now, casting shakeups happen constantly in the industry. Actors leave shows for health reasons, scheduling conflicts, family decisions, or because a role simply isn't the right fit anymore. What makes this one interesting isn't the fact that a recast is happening. It's the timing, and what that timing tells us about where this production actually stands. Let's talk about why this particular role matters so much, because if you've only seen the movies, you might be underestimating her. In the first book, The Philosopher's Stone, Ginny barely exists as a character. She shows up for maybe one scene at King's Cross Station, too young to attend Hogwarts yet, hiding behind her mother while her brothers head off to school. Blink and you'd miss her. But starting in Book 2, The Chamber of Secrets, everything changes. Ginny enrolls at Hogwarts. She becomes tangled in the book's central mystery in a way I won't spoil for anyone who hasn't read it. And from there, across the rest of the series, she grows into one of the most important supporting characters in the entire saga. She joins Dumbledore's army. She fights in real battles, not just background moments. She becomes a serious Quidditch player in her own right. And yes, she eventually becomes Harry's long-term love interest, which the original film series famously fumbled. If you've seen the movies, you probably remember two specific scenes that fans still bring up as some of the most awkward moments in the whole franchise. The shoelace scene, the pastry feeding scene, genuinely painful. So this recast isn't just filling a background role. It's casting the actress who will eventually carry some of the most emotionally significant material in the back half of this franchise, assuming the show runs that long. Whoever gets this role isn't just playing a Weasley sibling. They're being handed a character arc that spans potentially 7 seasons of television. Here's where it gets genuinely interesting from a production standpoint. Season 1, adapting The Philosopher's Stone, doesn't even premiere until Christmas Day. That's still months away. And yet Season 2 was only officially greenlit back in May, with Succession alum Francesca Gardiner staying on as showrunner alongside newly promoted co-showrunner John Brown. Officially greenlit in May, and already actively casting a major character by early July. That's fast. What that tells us is that the creative team almost certainly wasn't starting from zero when the Season 2 announcement came through. Shows like this don't get greenlit and then start outlining episode from scratch the next week. It's far more likely that Gardiner and Brown have been quietly developing Season 2 scripts and episode structures throughout the post-production process of Season 1. And the official greenlight in May was more of a formality than a starting gun. And if casting wraps up in the next few weeks, which is realistic given how quickly this call went out, filming could plausibly begin before the end of summer. That actually lines up nicely with the source material too, since Chamber of Secrets opens with Harry stuck at the Dursleys' house over summer break. Shooting during the real UK summer would let the production capture natural light and weather that actually matches the book's opening chapters. There's also a bigger strategic reason to move fast. HBO clearly wants this to be an annual release. Season 1 lands this Christmas. If a meaningful chunk of Season 2 is already in the can by the time Season 1 premieres, that puts them in a strong position to hit a Christmas 2027 release for Chamber of Secrets, keeping the momentum going instead of leaving an awkward multi-year gap between seasons, which, if you've watched literally any other prestige fantasy adaptation, you know can kill a show's cultural relevance. Now, Ginny isn't the only new addition coming in Season 2. Chamber of Secrets introduces a wave of characters who were either missing or barely used in the first book, and the show is going to need to cast several of them alongside her. Some early Chamber of Secrets characters, like Lucius Malfoy, played by Johnny Flynn, actually already appeared in Season 1 ahead of schedule, which is another small hint that the writers are building this thing with a long game in mind rather than adapting book by book in isolation. There's also still no confirmed actor for Voldemort, despite months of speculation involving some genuinely big names being floated online. That casting decision alone is going to dominate headlines whenever it finally happens, probably even more than this Ginny news has. And speaking of headlines, the casting call itself sparked a smaller controversy of its own. Alongside the audition details, the post included a first look at a redesigned Hogwarts crest, and longtime fans immediately had opinions. Some called the new house robes and shield a genuine improvement. Others felt it strayed too far from the version most people grew up with. Small detail, but it's a good reminder of just how closely this fan base is tracking every single visual choice this production makes. Months before a single episode has aired at where does this leave us? HBO now has to find a child actor who can convincingly grow into one of the most important relationships in modern fantasy fiction, while filming what's essentially a soft reboot of a beloved franchise under a microscope that the original film cast never had to deal with. Because the internet in the early 2000s simply couldn't scrutinize casting decisions in real time the way it can now. It's a tough job for anyone, let alone a child stepping into a role this public. But if the production timeline holds, we could be looking at cameras rolling before summer even ends, which would be a genuinely fast turnaround for a show operating at this scale. If you want to stay ahead of every casting reveal, every set photo leak, and every Chamber of Secrets update as it happens, this is the place for that. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and let me know in the comments who you think should play the new Ginny Weasley. I'll see you in the next one.